Better get the hoop back in. Got to. You know what I do.
My first year Cyprus, I always knew Floyd, but not on that level. And I came home one time from my first year overseas, went straight to Vegas for Adrian's fight, and we were in the gym, and he was like, "Yo, where Jay Crawl at?" And everybody was like surprised, like, "What is he? What do he want you for?" And he's like, "Yo, you hoop, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, and he was like, "I'm gonna put you in a position to be seen." Europe is transitioning, I think. I think as Americans, I think our style is playing up and down, playing fast, and then when we come to Europe, sometimes it's more of a X and O's game, right? Making the right reads, slowing the game down, and I think the game is transitioning. I think you can see it during EuroLeague as well. Like the teams that, to me, that have struggled this year, like Alba Berlin, like they were always a team that they're running cuts, back cuts, flares, no dribbling, and that's hard to guard, but the game is transitioning. So I think that's our advantage coming over here playing, is playing fast. And we're used to playing like that in the NCAA. VCU, they pressed the entire game, played fast. Same where I was at, we played fast. So I think like we've played like that our whole life. So coming over here, playing that way is normal.
How did you, now you being obviously you probably one of the quickest, fastest guards in Europe. At what point in your career did you learn to kind of slow down and play with pace? Because I remember when I first came to Europe, I was running 100 miles an hour, and they like, "Yo, young fella, like slow
Yeah.
down." Like,
Yeah, I talk about that all the time, especially now, like back in the summers when like the rookies are coming in working out, and my first year was like, yo, I got to be the fastest person on this court at all times, and then when I started to play against people that were fast as well, it was easy to guard. Like, I know you're going at one pace, I'm just gonna go at one pace with you. And I started to like when I like Kyle Lowry playing against him. I mean, he's not the fastest guy, but just his pace and how he approaches everything. Isaiah Thomas, like playing against some of them guys, like Isaiah's fast, but his quickness, his deceptiveness of how he moves, like made it harder to guard. So I think after maybe I think I did what? I think after my G League season and first came over to Europe, I think that's when things kind of slowed down for me. Um, that I knew my speed was an advantage, but it wasn't as big of an advantage until I could change up my speeds, let things develop. Like now watch, like when I watch the NCAA, you see guys coming off a pick and roll 1,000 miles. You're like, you're not even letting nothing develop. Like you
right.
can't see anything. The play haven't even happened. And I'm like, yo, I was probably that guy too, though. Like, so
Right.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I feel like that's one thing I always think about too. When you watch college basketball, it's like, yo, they making so many dumb decisions, but like, at one point we were that same dumb player. Like,
Facts.
they just trying to run over the screen and
Yeah.
things like that. But okay, even going back to uh as a point guard, like what kind of reads are you making? What kind of checks are you going through? Being so quick and things of that nature. So, are you reading? Okay, which big is heading out, and what reads are you making as you go through your pick and roll process and
Yeah,
finding
for
guys?
sure. I think the first thing is on like when I call a pick and roll, like first I want to choose the weakest defender, period. Like before we even start the pick and roll, I'm gonna choose probably the slowest guy. Um, and then after that happens, if he's not hedging, the first thing I'm looking for is the three coming off. That's my first thing coming up before anything happens, if I get the space. Then after that, it's pretty much to see what the big's doing. If he's a little high up, now I got on the weak side, is he the guy gonna pull in and bump, or is he gonna stay with him? And I'm making that decision out of there. And then it depends also too how the defense is. Sometimes they do the ball side corner guy be the help, so I can hit that corner guy as well. Um, but I try to really stay on the weak side because even that pass for me as a small guard is a hard pass to pass over top. So everything has to be like I'm seeing the little creaks and openings lower. Like it's easier for me to make a pass rather than trying to hit over the top or throw it over. It's so that's what I kind of look for is like just a little openings coming off of that after if he doesn't hedge or does hedge. If he hedges, I'm trying to hit the short roll or the one more. Like soon as he hedges, make boom boom because now the weak side is gonna play a 2-on-1.
And are you hitting the short roll? You trying to hit it low? Because I always imagine like with short guards, especially ones that can spray the ball all over the court. Like, I mean, length is an issue. You know what I'm saying? As far as like getting that pass like over your head, like even at 6'3" against a taller guard, like I'm trying to extend my arm all the way over to throw the hook. Like, do you avoid the hook passes or how do you or you try to get better angles?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is better angles. But for the most part, like especially if it's a hedge, I always try to take the one dribble back to so I can at least if I do the pass, I get a little separation and lob it over to take one, or I'll take the dribble back and try to just put it right in the middle between them, like down low, because I know nobody's about to reach down there. So that's my biggest thing. Over the top is difficult. Like I tell them all the time, like some of my bigs, like even when I cut and stuff, and they want me to make a play out like a little cut, I'm like, yo, that's difficult. If I get the ball down there, like it's hard for me to lay the ball up right away. It's hard for me to kind of make a pass out of it. Like so, I typically don't cut.
Yeah.
Like it's just like it's difficult when it comes to those situations. So I try to do what's best for me and my advantage.
Yeah, nah, I get that. Yeah, I got a couple more questions on this topic. Now, I think like in regards to your handle and your creativity, I think you're probably one of the most creative guards that I've seen as far as just the dribble combinations and how you drop in the dribbles and switching your feet and things like that. How did you develop your handle and creativity?
I think the handle came since I was a kid, just always having the ball around, even watching the and one and all that, trying to practice all that stuff, being outside and, trying to imitate them. I think that's where it started. But as far as like my footwork, I think it was my sophomore year, I believe, junior year. I went out to Santa Monica to work with Rob McCollahan, and at the time he was working with D Rose, Kevin Love, and Tyreek Evans at that time in their prime, and all we worked on was catching off of different pivots, like whatever it was, like where it was a curl action, I'm sweeping, reverse pivoting, like the whole summer was working on different pivots, and after that I kind of like started just adding my own thing to it because I felt comfortable off of each pivot, and I think from there I kind of just build off of that and just it feels like sometimes like people always ask me about like, yo, how do you do this? How do you do that? And like sometimes it's just like a reaction. Like like certain things I don't even work on. And if I went to the gym and worked on it, I'd probably be looking like a fool. Like even some of the finishes are like I know I'm not gonna like if I worked on that, I'd probably be throwing them all off the backboard. But once I'm in like rhythm and in the moment, like things like I just go off of what's given to me.
Nah, that's a fact. And the last question I had was as a smaller point guard, what's your focus or what's your approach when you have like a similar sized defender versus when they try to put somebody like 6'7" on you and put that taller defender on you?
The taller defender's always been the easiest for me. Always been the easiest. I feel like, one, they're not used to guarding somebody my size. So it's difficult for them, and they try to be physical and stuff, and you can't be physical on somebody you can't keep up with. And then like the smaller guards, I feel like the smaller guards is where I probably have the most problems with because, some of them are almost as fast as me or close, and even on the defensive end, I'm not used to it as well. Like I'm used to getting underneath their guys and using my size to advantage, but like the smaller guys, I've had the most problems with. I'm not saying I have problems with it, but that's the most difficult for me. Um, but yeah, for sure, if it's a taller defender on me, I know like it's gonna be a good night.
while getting ready for the interview. So I saw a few highlights again from your team Ludwigsburg in Germany, Riesen. So, but I thought about this. I feel like it was like 5 years ago, basically 5 years ago. But even that time, you definitely had the same style. So when exactly did you feel like your game style matured? At what stage of your career?
I would say probably my first year in Turkey because when I was in Germany, I actually was there for a tryout. I actually got cut, and he liked me, kept me around, and a player got hurt, so I was like a replacement, and then he wound up keeping me for the year. So that was kind of like my first like full season overseas. So that was kind of like a learning experience for me, just seeing how things work. And then Affion was kind of like he gave me the keys and like let me run the show. So I think that was kind of the year that kind of whether it was confidence, whether I started to understand the Europe style game. That was probably the key year.
And since you mentioned Afyon, Anthony, if you don't know, Afyon is a smaller city compared to Istanbul. So when it comes to playing in a...
Call that a city?
What did you say?
You call that a city? It's like a village.
I know, right?
Now outside my place.
So playing in that kind of small places. So sometimes there are two sides. So player says playing for that kind of city helps you to focus on your game, and because you basically don't have anything to do, right? So in that kind of place. So, but in another side, some people are nourished from social relations, right? So how was your experience in Afyon, like considering your game style?
I think that was one of the keys was that where I stayed at, I had a gym attached to where I stayed at, and I could get in there 24 hours a day, and I was in there. That's all I did. And our coach was cool enough. After every game, we used to get 2 days off, so I had my social life by staying in Istanbul and hanging out there. Me and my wife doing stuff. So it was perfect for me. I got my work in during the week, and then had days to still have my social life. So it was perfect. Like.
And I think it was the same for Nicosia because your first overseas experience was in North Cyprus, and not so many people had an idea about that in Turkey. But, I think you probably experienced the same thing there, right? Because I read you were doing 3 practices in a day. Is that true?
Yeah, because it was nothing like we had practice at night because our guys had normal jobs. So we couldn't do anything till like 7, 8 o'clock. So all day I would just be sitting at the room, and we had like a facility, right? Like it was almost like a little dorm that I stayed in that had the weight room, had the track, had a basketball court that was always open during the day. And that's all I did all day, the entire day. That, go take a nap. That, go take a nap.
And I don't know if you would agree, but I mean, the word overseas used to have a negative connotation in the past, but now I think it is changing due to some European players like Jokic, Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo. So what are your thoughts? Do you think the perception has changed from the American side?
Like for the Europeans? Like how they
No,
are?
for Americans playing overseas.
Yeah, it's so weird like coming home to guys who've never played overseas before, like some of the NBA guys and all that. Like NBA is the highest level, and when you try to break down of the style and how it is overseas, to let them know that like it's not sweet over there. Like it's guys that came from the NBA to over here that can't succeed over here, that can't make it over here. Like this is a whole nother aspect. Like you guys are comfortable with your families, your living situations, just the American way, what you're used to, and going to a whole nother country to try to adapt, fit in, feel comfortable, not missing home, and then try to perform on top of that. Like you don't have the GM coming in and yelling at you guys because you lost 3 in a row, or saying that you're not going to get paid, or maybe you're missing AC or whatever, the internet, Wi-Fi go out, you can't talk to nobody. They don't have to deal with that stuff, and then they want you to perform on top of that. So, and then when it comes to the basketball side of it, like it's just you see these Europeans that's coming to the NBA and killing, like it's hundreds of them over there. You got all these young prospects that are coming to the NBA. Like that's just how it is. It's way more physical. Um, like nothing sweet about playing overseas. Like you have to be mentally, spiritually, emotionally ready to play overseas.
Yo, I was gonna say too. I mean, I think playing in Turkey specifically as being one of the best domestic leagues outside of the NBA. I mean, talk about the level of guards you have to play on a nightly basis, man. I don't think it gets enough respect.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's like the reason I wanted to stay in Turkey, like because um, every game, whether they the worst team in the league, like they got killers on the team. Everybody, like everybody has a resume too. Like it's not guys like, yo, this is the first opportunity. Like everybody there has proved did what they did in their career. Like you got your Shane Larkins, Will Clyburns, your Harrison twins was there. You got Zach August. It's you can go down the list. Finner, all they guys, Edwards, first time overseas. And then even the smaller teams in the league, like all right, Bishop Tops was about to drop, but they got
Yeah.
yearly guys on their team. It's crazy. Like
Alaric and Jamar Smith. I mean, there's
yeah,
hella
right.
guards in Turkey, and that's where I think like
Yeah.
Spain. I think Spain collectively has better teams,
Hmm.
but I think as a guard, I think your day to day is harder in Turkey. I think as a guard, I think your
Yeah.
day to day is harder.
You got what Eric McCullum, like you got guys that's really putting the ball in the basket
Yeah.
at a high rate, and hasn't just done it here neither. They've done it through their whole career, and then you putting all these guys in one league, like it's crazy.
Nah, that's a fact, man. But yeah, we want to go into your personal life, like off the court. Obviously, it's been well documented your relationship with Floyd Mayweather. You talk about how that relationship developed.
Yeah, when I was one of my best friends is Adrien Broner. So like he's from Cincinnati. We've known each other for a while. I actually sat out my first year pro and was basically training with him, doing everything with him, like and then outside his training camp, like I was like his assistant when we travel and stuff. And my first year Cyprus, I always knew Floyd, but not on that level. And I came home one time from my first year overseas, went straight to Vegas for Adrian's fight, and we were in the gym, and he was like, "Yo, where Jay Crawl at?" And everybody was like surprised, like, "What is he? What do he want you for?" And he's like, "Yo, you hoop, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Like, and he was like, I'm gonna put you in a position to be seen. Like, so it was like 2 weeks go by, maybe a week, 2 weeks go by, and I always heard that my whole life somebody's gonna help me and do something. And he FaceTimed me at like 5 o'clock in the morning, saying, "Hey, you'll pack your stuff up. You coming to Vegas? You got to work out at Impact." And I told my mom. My mom didn't believe it. She's like, "Yo, you just didn't. That didn't happen." I left in the morning, and I was there maybe 3 4 days. I got to the hotel, and I didn't hear from nobody. Nobody. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know when I was working out. Like I'm like, "Yo, what am I doing out here?" And he told me I came to the mall. He's like, "Yo, sorry, I was out of town. I was doing some business. We're about to go to Miami. You're gonna come with me." Da, da, da. So we went to Miami, and I found out my workout schedule was on Monday. So we're in Miami on Sunday. I told his assistant to book my flight back to Vegas so I can make it Monday. And we was in Live. It was me, him, Clay Thompson, Wayne, and he's like, "Yo, just stay here. We'll get your work in here." Da, da, da. And I was like, "Nah, I'm out." So I left, and then his right hand man, who I was close with for a long time, and he was basically like, "Yo, he was testing you to see if you was around for your work or you was around for the right reasons." And after that, he like just took me under his wing and I had NBA workouts. He was putting me in front of just networking, and my career kind of changed off of that, just having them opportunities. And now I call him my uncle now. It's been 10 plus years.
That's a super dope story. And like, what impact Have you? What impact has witnessing, let's say, like the work ethic of Adrien and Floyd had on you on the basketball side?
Oh, the way they work, and even Floyd, like we'll go eat, we'll go to the club, then afterwards he goes straight to the gym. And it's like he never let that affect, like what he does outside of the gym affect him going to the gym. And I think that was the biggest thing for me that I picked up on. Like, cause after all that, I'm still going to the gym at that time and sometimes not even going to sleep and going straight to impact. I will work out for 3, 4 hours and then pass out. And I think that's what kind of changed like the way I approach things was like, don't matter what you do, you got to put your work in. And my biggest thing was always trying to outwork the next person, because the disadvantage they say I have being small, I had to be in the best shape. So like when they running their miles, like I'm right with them running their miles. Like I know hoopers ain't doing that. Like you barely can get hoopers to run. They want to do all the court work and get shots up, lifting and stuff. Like I'm running 5 to 10 miles every day on top of all my other work. And as I got older, like I calmed it down, like, cause now I know what I need. At the time, like it just changed. Like if I wanted something, like I had to work harder. Like I had to do what everybody's not doing. While they sleep, I got to work.
And as a basketball player, because I've been around boxers, I've been around boxers a lot too. But I had to sit out my first year because I had a hip injury, and I went to this boxing gym. And Nonito Donaire, he was like pound for pound #3 back then, behind Floyd and Pacquiao. Yeah. But witnessing boxers work out, like it changes you mentally. And once you actually get in the ring and you're working out with them consistently, like it kind of changes your whole perception of being in shape. What was it like being a basketball player watching, boxers in their element?
Yeah, it's like when I first came around, it was crazy because I came around before I turned pro. I was still in college when I was around the boxing. So like I knew I was in shape, and then you see what they're doing, and it's like now it's just them. Like I'm not doing my reps with 2 or 3 people. Like he's doing all his reps by himself for 2 hours straight. And then once I seen that, then I started to, venture into that, working out with them. Then it got to a point where like that's all I knew, and I knew what type of shape I was in. Like they going to Colorado Springs, they're getting the altitude to train. Like you're doing a whole training camp like that. So I'm up there. Then when I come down to where I got to do my workout, I'm running laps around guys. Like, and it just shows like what you do sometimes as a player, and maybe not even basketball, whether it's football, whatever you do, that it's always somebody out there that's like, you think you in shape, like that's a whole nother lane that you're not in. Like it's a whole nother avenue that you can tap in that you think you already tapped into that you didn't.
Right. And my last question is like, what do you think is like a public misconception about Floyd and Adrien?
I think the one with Adrien, he has this misconception about like how he parties, gets in trouble and stuff like that, which he does. Like that's one of his demons he's fighting. But at the same time, dude is like, he works hard. Like to me, he overworks. Like he doesn't understand the recovery side of it. That like part of your workout, you have to recover from the workout as well too. Like, and sometimes he don't understand that. He just means like, yo, I gotta keep going, I gotta grind. And all people see that side, like that he really works hard. And the Floyd side, like he was always through his career was the villain, the bad guy. And like he's the most generous, like cares about the next person attitude. Like it's amazing like how much he does for people, and the way he puts people in position to be successful. Just the little checking in stuff. Like this man has meetings and doing this and doing that, got his hand in everything you could think of, but he still finds a way to, yo, everything good, family? Like, how's the season going? Whatever the case is, like I talk to him on a normal basis, and it's like you have so many people around that you are close with, but you still generally care about everybody and their well-being and making sure that they're okay.